On the Radio is brought to you by Zurich Insurance, the perfect place to catch up with all things Melbourne. If you enjoy this content and want more inside access from the team, make sure you visit the club website.
Always great to have your company for Dwayne's World. We'll head back to your calls very shortly, play a little bit of Lost in the Wash as well, take a couple of your calls on things we should have discussed by now. And if we haven't already, we'll get that Twitter poll up on the Dwayne's World website. Is Nick Kyrgios good for world tennis or not? Lily Mithen's been good enough to join us, Melbourne AFLW star. AFLW prelim finals this weekend with Melbourne hosting Brisbane in a history-making first AFLW match at the MCG, which is pretty damn exciting. Lily, welcome to the program. Great to have you back.
Thanks, Dwayne. Thanks for having me. I'm a real regular on the show and happy to be.
I'm happy to have you as a regular as well, and I keep getting so many texts as well saying, when's Lily back on? So it's good to have you back on. It's good to have you on the G as well. That's going to be fantastic for everyone.
Oh, how good is it? Yeah, I'm so excited. It's, I guess, a massive honour to be playing the first AFL women's match on the G, and, yeah, sort of living out a childhood dream. I spent lots of Saturdays as a junior sitting in the stands and always wondered if I would have the opportunity to play in the middle of it. So, yeah, pretty rapt that opportunity has come, and even better in a prelim final.
Did you ever go down and have a kick on the ground as a kid?
Yeah, always, after the game when the second siren goes and you can run out and have a kick to kick, I would always do that. So was pretty familiar with kicking the footy in that sense. And then a couple of AFL Nines games just randomly here and there as a late team, but never a proper match. So never even got the chance to get on as an Oz kicker at halftime either. So I feel like I got a little bit jibbed, but no, my time's come at a very good opportunity.
Have you been keeping sharp? You haven't played a competitive game since the 12th of March.
It's been a funny run into a finals campaign, that's for sure. With Collingwood going down with COVID and them not being able to play sort of pushed it all back a couple of weeks. But, we've stayed really sharp. We've had lots of match sim and been able to bring in a few of the VFLW Casey players in to train with us and sort of play some intra-clubs over the last couple of weeks. And, then we've sort of been able to taper off and really freshen up and make sure we're fit and firing. It's also sort of not a bad thing that you can kind of get players back to full strength and feeling really fit and really ready to sort of compete and play a hungry brand of footy.
I mentioned earlier on in the program, I'm all for the AFL having every AFL club dive into a COVID top-up list to grab players to fill in if they lose a dozen due to COVID in the home and away, but I would not want to see it in the finals. I think the AFL should change that rule, put an asterisk on it and say we're not doing it in the finals. We're going to do what we've done with the AFLW, postpone it. What would your advice be to the men's game?
Oh, I definitely think you can't sort of compromise your list and your competitive list due to something like COVID. I think for finals it would be completely unfair to, miss a large chunk of your team to the virus over a finals campaign. So I think, the fact that we've had to wait a couple of weeks to play hasn't been ideal, but I don't think it will feel like for the winner to win this premiership, knowing that you're not going to, like if you weren't competing against every team, like we've just seen in the WNBL recently that one team just had to pull out because they couldn't put a squad together and they weren't able to play a final. And if something like that happened in the AFLW or the AFL men's competitions, I don't think it would really sit well with anyone. So whilst it hasn't been ideal to wait out a couple of weeks, I think it's the most fair and equitable way to get a season away and to sort of award a premiership team at the end of the competition. The couple of weeks haven't been great, but at the same time, very necessary to have a competition that's legitimate and avoids that asterisk, as you mentioned.
You summed that up pretty well. I won't even add another question to that. I think that's exactly what I wanted to hear, just to get your perspective on it, because you've coped with the extra week off, and it sounds like you've coped pretty well, and that is the best of what would be two evils, I suppose, if you have to lose so many players. Have you had any more discussion with your fellow players as to when the best time for the next season is?
It's still sort of being, chatting amongst it at the higher powers, and I think it's looking very likely that it'll be August kickoff date, which doesn't give us a whole heap of time to prepare for, I guess, the next season, season 2 of year 2022. There's too many twos in this one. But I think given the list that we've got a really strong list, and yeah, there's expansion coming in, so there might be a bit of list change and a bit of list movement. But I think we're in a really good position again just to go around and kick another season off in a couple of months' time. So I like the August start date. Pre-season in winter doesn't really do it for me, but that's all right. I can see past that. I think the opportunity to sort of play over that men's finals campaign could get to some sort of good airtime and a good lead into the start of the season, and then wrap it up before Christmas, and everyone can have a really solid break before we jump back into it. So I think it's a good time to play. I think it's good for AFLW in the sense that girls get a really good break over the summer to sort of refresh and recharge from what's a pretty intense time when you're working as well as competing in a semi-professional league. So, the August start date would be fine by me for those sort of reasons. But if that's not to be the case, then I've also enjoyed playing in the summer.
Let's hope you get a big crowd at the MCG. So Saturday, 12:40 p.m. start, AFLW prelim final, Melbourne v Brisbane. Always great to chat to you, Lily, and let's hope we're doing it again next week.
Fingers crossed, and hopefully I'm gearing up for a granny. Thanks for having me, Dwayne.
Absolutely. We'll chat to you next week, even if you're not gearing up for a granny. Lily Mithen joining us, Melbourne AFLW star.